This is Craig and Andrew, two Ranger qualified Army officers with MBAs, here to help you improve your business through leadership.
Each week, we'll deliver easy lessons from the battlefield to the boardroom on how to improve team performance. If you're a leader or want to be, this is the place for you.
Welcome to the cohort.
Disclaimer: the views in this podcast are those of the authors alone and do not represent the views of the Department of Defense or the U.S. Army.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Command Post Cohort.
Good morning, everyone.
Hope everybody's having a great day out there.
Yeah, it's chilly here in Texas, Craig. It got down into the 60s.
Hey,
So we're having
that's some improvement.
a
It's
cold
better than
front
100
moved in.
degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're approaching that fake fall time we get in the southeast of where you think the weather's enjoyable, and then the next day it's 85 and not as enjoyable as it was previously.
Nah, it is enjoyable.
So, well, today we're going to talk about a concept as a leadership tool of commander's intent. And this is something that, we kind of grew up with in the military, that was a part of all of our operations orders. It was a part of pretty much everything we did as leaders. There was some version of commander's intent involved. And I think it's a useful tool that you can use in business. And we'll talk about how do you kind of translate it over and how does it work inside of the business world.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of a well-crafted commander's intent because really what it is essentially is it takes what in the Army we use is five paragraph op order, right? So it goes over everything for one particular operation that everybody needs to know, and it can be a couple pages long to 500 pages long. But it kind of mirrors the START framework we have, but within the 5 paragraph op order is this commander's intent. And if you take the entire 5 paragraph op order and condense it down as much as possible, boil it down as much as possible, and get rid of everything that is even potentially get rid ofable, if I may use such a word that I just invented, you get the commander's intent, right? Failing all else, go with the commander's intent, and you'll achieve the outcome.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to think about it. It's if you boil it all the way down to the absolute necessary. If you had 90 seconds to tell somebody on your team what you wanted them to do, that is the commander's intent. I think that is, it's the parsed down executive summary of the entire plan of action and what you're expecting somebody to do.
Yeah, exactly. Executive summary. That's a great way to put it as well. Even more trimmed down than that, perhaps.
Yeah.
So the commander's intent consists of three different parts: a purpose, key task, and end state. And they're each equally important as a part of the commander's intent. So the purpose really gets after the why we're doing this mission, or why we're doing this thing in a business sense. Why is important to the business, why is important to the mission. It really condenses it down and summarizes it very briefly of the whole operation.
Yeah, it's something that we always talk about when you're giving your team a task, no matter what it is. They need to understand the purpose behind it. This is not just some knee-jerk reaction, but this is a part of some overarching goal or strategic objective for your organization. And so you want to ensure that you have that purpose or explaining the why inside of this commander's intent, and the value of purpose, I think, is shown by that's the very first thing we start with. If all else fails, why are we doing this even?
Yeah, and this can be a little bit vague even. It doesn't What I'm mean by that is that it doesn't have to be exacting, because you get to the rest of that and the rest of the op order, right? Or the rest of the intent, or the rest of the statement for the operation, right? It's the overarching, just a few sentences about the why, right? The whole big reason. It doesn't have to be exactly specifically all the way down, right? It doesn't have to be 5 paragraphs itself. It's just The overall purpose, keep it nice and kind of short.
Yeah, because like you mentioned, you're going to get to that because like the second point here is your key task. And these are those activities of what are what are the tasks that have to be accomplished to support this intent? What are they that's going to support the purpose? These are the usually you're talking 2 to 3 key tasks that are going to be utilized by your team.
Yeah. So these are the things that, like it says right there, must be done. And you're going to have other tasks that come along with the operation or whatever it is you're doing for the business. But these are the absolute critical things that have to be done.
And is I do want to point out, I don't think I mentioned when I first started sharing my screen. So anyone who's is not looking at this, if you're on one of our audio only platforms, YouTube, Spotify, where we have video access as well to the podcast, you'll be able to see this as we walk through it. And then on our website, commandpostcohort.com, we'll actually have this listed in the resources section. So if you want to print out a copy or download a copy, you'll be able to do that and use that for your own planning purposes.
Thanks. It'd be a helpful resource. So again, the key tasks are the things that must be done to be successful.
And then you get into the end state. And this is what if you could wave a magical wand, what would you like for things to look like at the end of this operation or activity that you're having everyone do? At the end of the project, where do you want everything situated, and how do you know that it was successful?
Yeah.
And this kind of ties back into when we talk about planning, we talk about backwards planning, but we always want to start with the end in mind and start with what are we trying to achieve and then work our way backwards from that. And so again, even though this, template of the leader's intent is really 3 components here, it encompasses a lot of what is necessary throughout that entire, whether you're using our start planning framework or if you're like us, you come from the Army and you're used to an operations order, whatever process or protocol your team has for planning, this template will kind of drive um, those key pieces that are critical to long-term success.
Yeah. So the good thing about the end state, what I like about it is it drives everybody to the finish line. So if people know where they're going, they can choose kind of, within certain boundaries where they can go to get to that end state, right?
Yeah.
So that helps them, adapt in real time and make decisions without having to consult all the way up because they already know it's in support of, in the direction of the desired end state. So these three things together by themselves can support employees in achieving what you want to get accomplished.
Yeah, and we talk about how do you empower your team and how do you set them up for success. Well, if you enable or you equip them with this amount of information, you tell them the purpose of what they're doing. Hey, these are the key tasks that we've got to get accomplished. And this is the end state that we plan to end at. Then you have really enabled them to make decisions and adapt to a changing environment because they have all the answers they need to know how to be successful. And so when you're not there or you're unavailable, you may be, whether it's geographically removed from the situation or you may just be tied up in a meeting, whatever the case may be, this type of information allows your team to continue to operate and continue to reach towards success without having to ask you every time they have a question or every time there's some change to the environment. They're able to operate independently.
Yeah. So that's why I really like it, right? A well-crafted commander's intent can do all of those things, right? Like because if they don't read the rest of the thing, or if they don't have the time to go through it, or you don't have time to explain it all to them. They can look at this, and if it's written well and it gets to what the leader wants to achieve, then they can take that and go after what they're trying to, what you want them to achieve. And it's the commander's intent, right, or the leader's intent. It's not the deputy's intent. It's not the staff guy's intent.
Yeah.
This is this is what's taken from the leader's brain, right, to achieve the purpose that they want to achieve, right? And so it's very important that they take the time to kind of craft this well written a couple of paragraphs to really direct everybody to achieve and empower everybody to achieve what they're looking to get after. So I really like them. I think they're pretty important.
Yeah, and just to kind of give everybody a sense of what when this was first introduced to us, it was from that army military background. The first time I was really looking at this of how do you develop this and what is its role in planning. One of the examples I remember being used was the idea of going to take out a bridge. That's the stereotypical army task. You got to go blow up the bridge to stop the bad guys from getting where they're going. And if you just tell your team, hey, I want you to go and destroy this bridge that comes across the harbor, and that's all you tell them, they can go and destroy that bridge and still it not be a overall success. Because if you were trying to prevent the enemy from getting from one side of the harbor to the other, and they saw that you blew up the bridge and took an alternate route, but your team didn't know why they were blowing up that bridge to start with, what appears to be a short-term success is a long-term failure because they didn't understand that purpose behind there and they didn't really know what the driving factor was. Whereas if you use a tool like Commander's Intent and you say, hey, look, I want you to go and prevent the enemy from getting from one side of the harbor to the other. And one
Mhm.
of the key tasks is to deny them this ability to utilize this bridge. But there's also going to be, depending on the scenario, there's going to be alternate routes. There's going to be other things to consider. But the important thing is they understand the purpose. And the end state is the enemy does not cross, does not get to a certain geographic area. And that allows that leader on the ground there to, no matter what changes happen, what the enemy does, because we always joke the enemy gets a vote. And so you never know like what they're going to do. And so you take all that into consideration. You go, okay, now I've empowered those leaders that are on the ground to do whatever they need to do because they understand the purpose, they understand the task, and they also understand what type of end state we're trying to achieve. And it's not just following a checklist. It's not just hey, did you go take out this bridge? Did you go blow this up? Did you go and stop this? Did you meet the overall intent? And so I think that's an important thing to give your team as a way to be successful.
Yeah, so it dovetails nicely with one of the previous episodes we did about discipline disobedience is what we called it.
Mm, yeah.
Really what discipline disobedience is, it's not just ignoring rules and standards and doing whatever you want. No, it's a deep understanding of the intent,
Yeah.
of the commander's intent, of the business leader's intent. So failing all the other rules and tasks and jobs and things you're supposed to do, if you have to adjust those or skip those in order to get to the commander's intent and achieve that desired end state, then that's what you're supposed to do, right? Because boil it all down, this is what we need you to do, right? We can walk through a few examples that I
Yeah.
think it will help might kind of tease out the how this what this actually looks like in a business sense.
Yeah. So one of the first ones I've got here is, opening a new regional office. And so maybe your organization has had one or multiple locations and the decision has been made that we're gonna open a new office, which at surface level you're thinking we don't need to really dive into what is the intent behind opening an office. That seems pretty straightforward. We need a new office. But I wanted to try to show that, there's different levels that you can use this at, and there's also different, even something that seems kind of straightforward. There's a lot of value in this. And like Andrew's talking about, is really boiling down that entire plan into something really short that you can use. And so I've got an example pulled up here that you can see if you're on video with us. But we talk about the purposes. We're going to open a new office in Nashville to expand our physical presence in the Southeast, improve client service response times, and tap into a growing talent pool for long-term scalability. This supports our 3-year strategic growth initiative. So a few sentences there, and we've really explained the why and the purpose behind this. It wasn't just that I got a smoking hot deal on real estate, but this is tied into our growth initiative. There is a need for our physical presence, client service response times, and even, we're talking about our long-term scalability. So in just a few sentences, we can really help our team understand what's going on with this decision.
Yeah.
And so then for the key task, we have things listed like securing a lease and completing setup by September 15th, hiring on board 5 new staff members by October 1st, host a ribbon cutting with local stakeholders, transitioning 3 major clients by October 30th, and then establishing operational systems such as IT, payroll, and HR support that match the headquarters standards. So already you see things like matching our standards. So we talk about how important it is to have those standards inside your organization. This is a good example of we don't have to list out, how we want IT or payroll to be set up. We just say, hey, it's got to meet the company standard. And so if somewhere we have codified that company standard, now in our statement of intent, we can just say, hey, make sure everything meets the standard. And that saves us a lot of time in explaining as leaders and empowers our team just to go out there and make it happen.
And so these are the key tasks again, right? Like he's talking about. Failing all else, achieve these and we'll be pretty good. It doesn't say, have your fleet of vehicles uh, already booked and in the garage,
Yeah.
because that perhaps can be done later, right? Focus on these things, right? Or, funding runs short or the timeline runs short. Focus on these things, and then we'll be more successful to achieve the end state.
Yeah. I think, kind of viewing it almost as priorities is a good way to look at it
Yeah.
too. Like you mentioned, when push comes to shove, what do we make sure we get done as opposed to just what are the nice to have things.
Yeah.
Then we conclude with the end state or what success looks like of by the end of Q4, Nashville office is fully operational, delivering seamless client service with a local team, maintaining brand consistency, and actively contributing to regional sales goals. So we can kind of paint this picture of what do we want everybody to realize by the end of the fourth quarter. What do we want things? We're going to paint that picture in everybody's head of what success looks like so that when something kind of ambiguous or maybe it's something we didn't plan for, maybe something changes in the market, this is our end state that we are trying to achieve, and it keeps us all on the same page without having to micromanage things.
Yeah. So, like in the rest of the, the guidance that you're going to give out to your employees, or the order, in the case of the Army, right? You'll have the more detailed timelines and some more detailed tasks by business unit or segment. But like this allows different segments and different employees to operate within their own boundaries to achieve these things, right? You don't have to micromanage them, like Craig was saying. If they know kind of where you're headed and the few key things that got to get done, then they can drive towards those. That allows them to work on that. And it might surprise you with some of the answers they come up with. And allows
Yeah.
you the leader, to work on other things.
Yeah, and I think that that's the purpose behind a lot of these tools is how do we set our team up for success, empower them, um, Because we used to talk about a lot of times trying to push the decisions down to the lowest level possible.
Yeah.
The further you can push that decision making authority down, the individuals at the ground level, whether that be on the production floor or the person actually talking on the phone with a client or the vendor, they're going to have the most information because it's like the
Yeah.
telephone game you play when you're a kid. By the time the little, like the story makes it around the
Yeah.
circle, it's changed so much. So from the time the frontline supervisor has the information and it works up through the production manager, through the general manager, all the way to the president who wants to be the one to make the decision. Well, now we've probably got a little bit of telephone game involved here. Even if it's got data and reports, there's going to be some bias and some information that's skewed. And so if we can push those decisions down and let our team make those, these are tools that we're trying to, share with people and say, hey, look, these are some ways to do it. I mean, you may find some things that you adjust or adapt to your situation or your team, and that's fine. But we're just trying to provide everybody with some frameworks to use and ways to help empower their teams.
Yeah. Because things like this improve efficiency and facilitate faster operations. Think of
Absolutely.
it like a spending limit on different budget accounts. Like the leader, it doesn't have to make, depending on the level, isn't making the decision for every single transaction, right? The employee doesn't have to seek approval for every single transaction, right? That's why you set the spending limits, right? Hey,
Yeah.
up to 5,000, that's on you. Above that, you let me know, right? And above 10,000, I got to tell my boss, right? That way, they're on the phone or in the room making the deal, like they can go ahead and make it, without having to stop. Okay, great, thanks. I'll call you back next week, right, or whatever it
Hmm.
is, in order because then they have to come back and ask you and write out the proposal. And all. No, no, no. Give them the authority to operate up to 5,000, and they can go ahead and make that transaction on the spot, right? As long as it's within the intent here. Now, well-crafted intent can guide them to that, along with the boundary there of the limit of 5,000 in this example.
Yeah. So we've got one other example I want to share to kind of show two different sides of this. So our next example is rebranding and a website redesign. Rebranding is something that a lot of companies at some point have to do, no matter the size. Markets change, products and
Yeah,
services change.
yeah,
And so we wanted to put together something with this. And so to start with our number one, our purpose is our current brand no longer reflects our expanded service offerings or customer base. We're rebranding to better communicate our value and relaunching the website to increase lead generation, conversion, and engagement. And so already we start talking about the purpose behind this is not because I didn't like the old color palette.
yeah,
It is, we have expanded our service offerings. And so now our brand doesn't really match up with that. And what comes to mind for me is think about Apple.
mhm.
So the name of that company used to be Apple Computers. Well, somewhere along the way, they realized they'd make more than computers.
They
They
do.
are not they are not solely a computer company, but they are almost a lifestyle brand. You could make the argument really. They have everything from watches and phones and TVs and computers. There's a much wider array of product servicing. So they decided, hey, we're going to change the name to just Apple. And I think that is something that if you're an employee there, you would want to know, hey, why aren't we changing this? Because maybe I work in a factory where all we do is build computers and it seems kind of silly.
Yeah,
But this helps me understand the larger picture of what all is going on inside of my organization.
yeah, exactly. Because if you come to an employee and say, "Hey, we're gonna change things," Craig, we're gonna change things. Okay, why? Right? Like that's
Yeah,
the very next question.
that
Well,
is,
overall, because we offer more products,
yeah.
and we need kind of an update, a refresh on the logo. Okay, so
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's just Because a lot of times when things are changing, if you just give people a reason, they go, "Okay, that makes sense. I
Yeah.
understand now."
Yeah.
And so if we go into the key task with this example, we're going to talk about finalizing a new logo and color palette and brand messaging by July 10th in this scenario, launching a redesigned website with clear service categories by August 1, rewrite all core marketing content to reflect the new brand tone, communicate rebrand to clients and partners via email, social media, and press, and then track our website analytics and lead conversions post launch. And so, two things that to highlight here is, we talk about clear service categories on our redesigned website. That may have been a friction point that we knew we had. And so, we're going to go ahead and address it here. And that is brought all the way up to the intent behind this so that we know that everybody that's working on that website, because that's going to be more than one person, it's, hey, look, let's make sure we have some very clear service categories throughout this project.
Yeah. Because if you're launching this whole rebrand campaign, right, because you offer new products, but yet I go to your website and it's the same things. Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? New products?
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
find them. Where are they on this website? What products?
Yeah.
But key tasks, right? Make the products available, right? Make them easy to get to so that people can understand. And kind of now you're not just what you're doing before.
Yeah. And then that goes into, we mentioned in there communicating the rebrand to clients and partners. Perception's reality. So no
Hmm.
matter if you make this new cool guy website, if you don't share it with people and you don't let everybody know, hey, this is going on, you want to not just tell your team the purpose behind things, but you want to share that outside the organization too. Think whether it's a client or a vendor, maybe it's a longtime customer that was really attached to that old brand, you want to explain to them why. Like, this is not us doing something radically different. We're just, as we have grown, we want to share that these new services that we're offering with everybody, and that alleviates some fears sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
And then the end state for this example would be by the end of August, the brand and website reflect who we are today. Engagement metrics have increased by 30%, and client feedback indicates strong alignment with the new brand identity.
So the end state, like we said before, is kind of, what success looks like at the end of it all. So now, like with the rest of the other parts of the intent, I can understand kind of where we're headed, right? How are we going to get to victory? Well, by the end of August, we're going to be successful in these ways.
Yeah, and I think that these are, this is a tool that teams can use to look through and say, okay, how are we communicating our message to? Because a lot of times when you're working on a project, things get placed in silos, unfortunately. And not all departments have the full understanding of what's going on. And when you have something as straightforward as this, maybe this was just for your marketing and web team. Well, now you can send this out to your operations guys and they go,
Hmm.
oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
It's not just because Craig didn't like the colors and he wants to change the colors. There's more intent behind this. This was intentional. This was not just sporadic that was decided one.
Yeah. This isn't the leader's good idea. All right. This
Yeah.
is the leader's intent.
Yeah. And I think that's important because I think that as leaders, sometimes if we're not willing to take the time to write out, I mean, I think all these examples we've shared with you are, half
Yeah.
a page,
Yeah. So
we'll
I was gonna
call it.
say half a page.
And so if as a leader, you should be able to commit the time to write down a half a page worth of information to empower your team throughout the organization. And it doesn't have to just be the ones that are working on it. I think there's value the wider you spread this information because that helps other departments that may not be working on that directly, but maybe they just get a question from a client. Well, you want your entire team to be prepared for those questions and not operating on, well, I don't know what they're doing over there in marketing. You never know those guys. Like, that's not the
Yeah.
message you want to send. You want someone to be able to explain, well, we're a 20-something-year-old company. We have continued to adapt to the market, and now we offer more products and services, and we just want our brand to reflect that. But that's a much better communication to a longtime customer than just, I don't know what they're doing over there in marketing.
Those marketing guys.
Yeah, because and then just wait until it's interdepartmental rivalry, and whether it's, no matter if it's the sales versus the ops guys or whoever it is, somebody's gonna take that opportunity to throw a jab, and that's not what we want.
Yeah, they're not gonna play fair at the company softball game.
Yeah,
Well, this is a very helpful tool. I'm a big fan. I think it does a lot of work. Whether the intent is set up a new office or liberate Europe, I think it's very helpful. And then just to take a little bit of time and kind of focus down the intent, right? The whole purpose, what must be accomplished, and then what success looks like, the purpose, key task, and end state, um, to get to victory.
yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, we've got this resource on our website, commandpostcohort.com. It's also on our consulting website of outsiders-group.com. And so feel free to reach out to us at either of those and shoot us a message if there's a topic you'd like to hear about, or we always keep our resources posted there free of charge. You can always download and utilize.
Look forward to hearing from you.
Y'all have a good one.
As always, take these lessons, use them, and spread them. Everyone is welcome in the cohort.
Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe for more, and drop us a line at commandpostcohort.com to request a specific topic.
We'll see you next time on the cohort.